Good morning, sir. I am Moses Ojochenemi GODSPECIAL from the Global Christian Update. I came into Ilorin yesterday and having heard much from you and watched some of your messages, I felt that coming to Ilorin, I need to make our time to come and see you because what we grow up to see in the church or to know about the church is different from what we are seeing today. And one thing that we notice is that as we are seeing, let me use the word decadence in the church, retrogression in the church, we're also seeing our nation also retrogressing, sir, going down. The church is going down. So we're like, does it mean that it is what is happening to the church that is affecting our nation? So we have so many questions, sir. So please, sir, can you introduce yourself to us, please, sir?
Yeah, my name is Isaac Omolehin. I'm an evangelist, and I'm based in Ilorin here. I've lived in Ilorin all my life. I've been preaching for 46 years, and I'm still preaching. I had my marriage in this town. I had all my children in this town. I schooled in this town, and have lived the most part of my adult life in this town. This is where I live. This is where I plan to die. I work here, and I'm happy.
So please, sir, can you tell us about our faith, the Christian faith, which we were asked to defend and to contend for? Can you tell us about what you know about Christianity when you got born again, when you began growing, in the faith, and then what it is today? Can we say we are better off today? Or what do you think about it all, sir? We want to know, sir.
When we became Christians in the 70s, I became a Christian in 1972 in Katsina. Katsina is now in Benue State. When we give our lives to Christ, we give our lives to Christ purely on faith and belief. Our Christianity had no material content. There was nothing of material that was implied in our giving our lives to Christ or in our service to God thereafter. So ours was a pure line. But what I was going to say earlier on is this, that whereas in the 70s into the 80s, we were still we are referring to this as the purest of the brand of Christianity we had compared to today, and the gradual decay and loss of quality that Christianity suffered as the age was advancing. Even as at those 70s, we were still criticizing the standard that it was low. So the one we are praising now was condemned then as not good enough and needed to be worked upon. So it's a very tearful and very sad development today that we've come to a point when we are praising and giving accolade to a decadent one that we were thinking was not good enough, and we were struggling to develop it and work upon it in the 70s. But that's where it ended. When we entered into the 80s, the American brand of Christianity was imported as a virus to corrupt the pure brand we came with from the 70s. And then materialistic Christianity, materialistic faith, elements and issues that have no heaven in focus, no spirituality in focus, were brought in. And the pure line was pushed aside. Money became an additional agenda in believing and in churching. And that has destroyed the entire purity that Christianity had all along.
So, sir, can you cite examples for us, area where you feel that we're better off in the 70s and today has been contaminated or polluted, so to say, sir?
In the 70s, when any claim you make with respect to your faith is believable. Not now. We are having pastors now who even divorce their wives. In the 70s, it wasn't there. We are having general overseers now who divorce their wives and marry another lady in the church. In the 70s, it would not even be heard of in the Orthodox churches that we criticized. It's not heard of. It's not done. Today we are having general overseers who rape members, and is on the front page of newspapers. And the churches are going on. On Sunday, the place is full to the door. Money is coming in, so it didn't seem to matter. In the 70s, in the 80s, it was not like that. Marriages were sound. Courtship was thorough. These days, you speak to a lady, and after a while, they are married. And what ought to have been examined and removed, what courtship ought to have isolated and removed from the behaviors and the characters of either of the partners, were not thoroughly done. And so they have gone into wedding. And they get into marriage now, and there is a lot of crisis. The rate of divorce in the Church of God today, from membership to the leadership, was not heard of in the 70s and in the 80s. In the 60s, we didn't have them. Christianity was so good and believable and trustworthy. If you tell anybody at that time you are a clergyman, they doff their hat. You go to the airport now, and once you even tell them you are a pastor, they get angry. Because they will just tell you that a pastor have just been caught now with cocaine wrapped around the round collar on his neck. So we have lost ground, we have lost credibility, we have lost believability, we have lost purity and standing, we have lost respect. Nobody respects anything called pastor anymore. Church is no longer what it used to be. You see people who are going to church now with half of their breasts out, and they will go there and speak in tongues with all their lips almost dripping from paint, like as if they are prostitutes. In those days, even the films, Hollywood films that were made in the 50s, the worst of women in the society in those days that were used to make films, their dresses were done. Go and watch the black and white films of the 80s, and the 50s and 40s. The worst women in the society in those days that were used to make Hollywood films were well dressed. They dressed to the wrist. Their dresses would cover themselves to the wrist. Their gowns would be down. The Queen of England remained the model of women dressing. Forget about whether you are a Christian or not. And today, you see a lady going to church and it's completely like a prostitute. So the differences are no more there. We and the world have bracketed. So that is the nemesis of today's church and Christianity. But be that as it may, the Bible spoke of a remnant. Jesus cannot die for the world. God cannot make such a huge investment on the world and lose out entirely. The whole of heaven is still struggling to retain a few. There are those that will be protected from decay. Granted that the drift is so strong now because of the money push, the mammon driving it. So a lot of people are backsliding, and a whole generation of Christians don't even know what Christianity is all about. Anybody who gave his life to Christ in this country in the past 20 years, he possibly doesn't even know what Christianity is all about. So the brand that was shown to him. There are general overseers now who have never known what Christianity was before, let alone comparing. You compare only when you have seen the two. But when only one is, you saw only one, what are you comparing? And what are you struggling to balance the equation with when there is no reference to any previous edition? So God is protecting, God is preserving, God is keeping a certain remnant so that Jesus Christ will not lose out entirely. God cannot do that kind of business with the world. You go to Boko and see how many people gather under Biliakone receiving teaching. You'll be surprised that, so this one is still here. Go to Baghdad midweek and see how many people are coming for Kumuyi's Bible studies midweek. Then you'll be surprised that, so this number is still here. We are still there. We will be there till the Lord comes. The world may be going the way they go. Those of us who are going to heaven, we also know the way to the narrow road. And that's where we will be. We have contentment. Not that we don't love money or materials. No, that's not what I want to say. Not that we don't need money. We need money. We don't love money. We need money. We need materials. We need car. We need house. We need shoes. We need clothes. We need food. We need visa to go abroad. I go abroad. We need all that. But that's not the ultimate. That's not the reason why I serve God. That's not the reason why I'm a Christian. Those things come by because Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Then these other things will be added up. So the additions are the ones we are enjoying, and we have contentment in those additions. What the Lord gives, we enjoy. What he does not give, we abstain from.
So in one of your messages I watched, you talked about that the brand of gospel that started from the 80s actually was prophetically was supposed to, the 40 years, terminated in 2020. I listened to that your message, sir.
Yeah.
And then, thank God, I had already worked on this book, The 7 Prophetic Steps to Back the New Nigeria. And the first step is the call to the Nigerian church to change her sermon and her messages. That the messages we have preached over the years is a major problem. And when I was to you said something of that nature also. Now, sir, we have this prosperity gospel, which we spoke about in that message. And then we have this occultism that is going on in the church, sir. So, sir, what do you have to say about the prosperity? The Bible talks about Jezebel, talks about Balaam, talks about the Nicolaitans gospel, which is also going on. We have some Nicolaitans now who are preaching that once you are saved, you are forever saved. And, sir, so one of the things that surprises me is that in their messages, they only preach salvation, sir. You don't hear them reference, salvation justification. They don't teach things that have to do with like doctrine of sanctification. And most of those apostolic doctrine that we heard people like John Wesley, people like William Seymour taught in their days. So, sir, what do you have to say about this, the Balaams? Because we have even former PFM leaders who are now preaching this message that once you are born again, the sin you are committing cannot take you to hell. Just keep praying, speaking in tongues, and keep coming to church. So we have 3 of them: the Balaams, which are the money mongers; the prosperity preacher, which you have spoken about in that your message, sir. So what do you have to say about these 3 brackets of things that we have in our nation, and what can be done, sir?
Well, the fact is this: these 3 species that you have highlighted, perhaps there will even be a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, since the world is still there. One give rise to another. One give rise. If you look at the evolution of cultism in Nigeria, the first one that came on campus was pirate. Then from there, then another one broke out of pirate. From that one, another one broke out. From there, another one broke out. Till now, we lost the count. We have talked about 3. There might even be a 4th and a 5th. There will always be these off-cuts. People who are discontented with a certain brand, just repackage that brand and add one more thing, becomes another brand. Then from that one, people will be discontented with it. You pull out the main issues there, add one more to it, add another one to it, become another brand. So it's likely we are going to continue to have different species and different brands of the gospel and the practitioners. The bottom line is this, that our Lord had said that towards the end, that these things will happen. The Balaamites, the prosperity people, the cultic, they will all emerge towards the end of the age. Their arrival is the confirmation that the end is near. Rather than us licking our wounds and sorry for ourselves and beginning to give up to their overwhelming influence on the society and on the government, we are supposed to recognize the fact that they are coming. If they don't come, then the Bible is not fulfilled. Their coming is according to the scriptures, that towards the end of time, people, false prophets, false doctrine, and people who will even love the things of this world, they will be lovers of the things of lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. The Bible has spoken about this. There's no amount of prayer you are going to pray that off. You are not going to be able to prophesy that off. It's going to happen. But as they come to happen, let the holy, let the righteous, let them shrink, let them gather themselves together, let them pull together, let the remnants pull together. Nehemiah said, wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, he said you should gather there, because that's the safest place to be. Now, we're not having sufficient coordination of the remnants. The remnants ought to coalesce. We don't have to find a coalition, we have to find a platform to correlate. What is happening right now is not the best. People like Kumuyi don't talk to people like Bileakone and several other people in different gradients of the Puritanistic remnant. The remnant ought to speak to themselves. They ought to speak among themselves. Brother Bileakone should have a meeting point with Deeper Life. Deeper Life should have a meeting point with Apostolic Faith. There are those of us who have particularly not been highlighted. We are not in the limelight, but we are also Puritans. But if we have a platform to gather us, you will notice and you'll be able to discover that we are not small. And we can in fact intimidate by our number. And when we also put our wealth together, do you go to a place like Deeper Life and think they are poor? Go to Boko, you think they are poor? You are here, do you think I'm poor? Now, if we come together, all these bombardments of prosperity people who are gallivanting themselves with their aeroplane and the cathedrals they are building, what is it? God has done a lot for the rest of us too, but we have not found a platform for coalition and to fellowship, and that's what the Lord will be coming for. The Lord will be coming for those of us who have separated ourselves from the worldly order. But we need to talk among ourselves. We need to come to the end of those who keep saying we are the best and you are not. We are number one, you are number 20, we don't want to talk to you. I think after 30 years, 40 years of practicing Deeper Life, practicing holiness, practicing this, practicing that, we will all now come to know that you are not the only one that know about holiness. You are not the only one that know about sanctification. There are also other people who are sanctified, who are purified, who live holy, perhaps even better than yourself. But you need to find them out, and they need to talk among themselves. Let me also say this, that towards this end, that this world will be getting worldlier, the holy will be getting holier, and there will be a mighty revival coming to the camp of the holy, as though to snatch and to retrieve those who have slided off. A revival is coming. We look forward to it.
Wow, that's great, sir. I love what you said. A revival is coming, sir. Sir, what do you have to say about the revival of Apostle Ayo Babalola, their days? And I don't know whether you also experienced anything during the time of Pi Elton. And then what do you have to say about the destiny, prophetic destiny of Nigeria? I mean, three things now. Ayo Babalola revival that we saw, that we heard of those days. I heard you talk about it, sir. And then Pi Elton work in Nigeria and what happened that time. And then you now tell us about the prophetic destiny. Does this nation, Nigeria, have any prophetic destiny?
I don't know if my version of the spiritual Nigeria, you call it prophetic Nigeria. We have our different understandings of that spiritual geography. Now, Joseph Ayo Babalola worked in his time and he served his own generation. But I did break out between 1940 to 1980 was the bracket that Joseph Ayo Babalola worked. That's when you are having of 1930 revival. Even some of his spillover into Azusa, 1932. And within that bracket, that window, Babalola threw up. And he served his own generation. But I was quick to also put the landmarks that every 40 years there is a transition. Between 1940 to 1980, there was that revival at that time. In 1980, it changed a little bit. And we ran that another 40 to 2020. 2020 marked the end of another. Right now, we are in another. And there's going to be an evolution and a change away from these former ones we have been having. If anybody, I still hear it around, people say, Olorin Ayo Babalola, the God of Babalola, and they have forgotten that that era had closed. If Babalola is here in Nigeria today, the kind of anointing he will need to address the present Nigeria will be different from the one that was needed to address Nigeria in 1930 and 1940.
Wow.
The reason is because as at 1930 and 1940, there were no cultism in our campuses. As at 1930, 1940, they were uprooting idols from different places in Yoruba land. Now they are setting up idols in different places in Yoruba land. Ifa University has been approved to be set up in somewhere in Yoruba land.
So including churches, they are setting idols even in churches.
They are even setting up idols in the churches. So if you are talking of Isoji 1930, the revival, it started expired. If you have to catch a new fire to address these current challenges and coldness. The current challenges have been alienated completely with the kind of the idol worship we are having now is different from the idol worship we are having in 1930.
This one is more
we are now having signboards of Kulti and Ogboni house being put on the streets. Rosicrucian have their signboards all on the streets. Babalawos have their signboards on the streets.
Eka have their signboards.
Eka have their signboards on the streets.
Amok
have their signboards on the streets. They worship openly. In the past, they will not dare do that. You go there at night. You don't want to even be identified publicly. So that anointing that was working in 1930 is no longer enough to deal with the present day recalcitrant and obstinate evil spirits that have entered into the heart of men. A new dose and a higher dose is needed. And the people who are to confront these forces should stop referring to 1930. 1930 doesn't work now. It doesn't. And what used to work 40 years ago, it doesn't work now. The present Nigeria, the present brand of politics we are playing is not the same as the one that Sadano played. Sadano had Sunday Awoniyi, who was a Christian from Mopakogi State, as his private secretary. A Christian was the one assembling his documents. Where do you find that in the north now? When in St. Michael, Otukpo, was graduating their students, the present Audu Ogbe, who is the chairman of Arewa Consultative Council, was in the same class with Bishop Onayekon. And when Bishop Onayekon came out from the Catholic Church in Otukpo and had aggregate 6, Sadano traveled from the north to go and congratulate him as a Christian and told him that Northern Nigerian government will send him to England for further studies. Then he told Sadano, he said, "I'm sorry, sir, I would like to be a priest." And Sadano said, "Even in that, if you need my help, I will help you." Do you see that today? The kind of politics we are playing today, is it the same as the ones we were playing at that time? Everything has changed. They have demonized the whole ethics of politics, and all the money vandalized and stolen. In those days, you go to the north now, ask them to show you the house of Aminu Kano. It's the one touch Richard House somewhere in Kaduna, Kano. I went there, I saw it. Look at the mansions that a councillor is building today, and there's no money. There's no money, and you are carrying the aircraft of the whole country to go and do shopping with the women in Dubai when the children at home are dying of hunger. That was not there in our politics of those days. So everything has changed, and whoever wants to address it now must not be looking for an archaic and outdated brand, because it won't work. A higher dose is needed. More power. These people who are asking us to eat more, they are deceiving us. More food is not needed to combat the kind of water that is on the table. More fasting is needed to deal with these robust, pot-bellied politicians. And the rest of us who have come up with another brand of Christianity in our churches, with thick neck of bishop, pot-bellied bishop. We need to dry up the bellies. We need to fast. We need to skin up ourselves and cry and weep all our tear glands empty in order to bring down revival on our streets.
So you have almost answered my next question. Now, what do we do to bring down revival? So, but don't you think we need to also live more holily than they are? Our standard, sir. I was talking with a sister from Australia recently, and he was talking about that. The fact that he has some women in Australia that he knows very well, that they refuse going to church now. You know their excuse are that they cannot worship in the present day church. That the church they worship before, women cover their hair with scarves before they come to church. That so many things are changing. That they, instead of them to go to this present day church, they should better remain at home and keep coming.
Well,
so, sir.
The other species of that is that certain people, a great number of people in their thousands, are moving out of the Pentecostal churches back to the Orthodox churches. They are returning to the Baptists. They are returning to the Anglican. They are returning themselves to Methodist church. They are returning themselves to African church. They are vacating Redeemed. They are leaving all these Pentecostal. They are going back to their former churches because there is more sanity. There you will not get to Anglican church and see a sister with half of the breast out. You will not find that there. They have found out that we have deceived them to come out of their former churches to join the Pentecostal movement, only to get there and find a decay and a kind of financial arrangement, political arrangement that violates all the tenets of holiness and righteousness in the Bible. Those who are saying they are not going to church again, that's the worst of the species that is throwing up. The other ones are saying we better go back to our former churches where there is more sanity. Our bishop cannot be raping members and the church will be full next Sunday. Our bishop will not be out there doing 419 and it's on the front page of newspapers and the churches are full every Sunday. No, they are saying to themselves, let's go back to our former churches where there is more sanity about Christian practice.
So, sir, one of the questions I asked about, do this nation have any prophetic destiny, talking about the purpose of God for the nation Nigeria?
If there was, it had been trashed. If there was, I don't want to say there is or there is none, but I no longer see any. The nation no longer exists except on paper. Nigeria does not exist except on paper. The very issues and the cords that bind us together have been removed. You see the governor of Lagos State talking to a policeman and he will talk back to him because Abuja sent him. It's not answerable to Lagos State governor. I mean, we can't run a nation like that. The very thing that brings us together as a nation has been destroyed. We have borrowed money. The Chinese people are even saying we don't want to borrow any money again. And when we are borrowing, how are we borrowing? We are borrowing and using the southern facilities as collateral. The north don't have seaport. Only in the south you have the ports. They are using these northern rulers are using the southern facilities to make a collateral, to borrow money from outside. and the money is taken away. We don't even know where the money is. Naira is so destroyed and dollar is so enhanced. But where is the dollar? The dollar is in the hand of Hausa people on the streets of Lagos. So 60% of Nigerian money is in Lagos. So when the northern rulers have seen that there is nothing they can do about our wealth, it's in Lagos. So they destroy the Naira and increase the value of dollar and put the dollar in the hand of their people. So that is Nigeria. Nigeria is going to break up. We don't have Nigeria anymore, either in prophecy or on paper in geography. Nigeria is, it will come to a time we can't even continue. The money will not even be there to continue. You know that ASU has gone on break now. And well, they will come back. But okay, the government is saying that they cannot afford the money to give to them for what they are asking for. And ASU is saying, okay, you don't have money to pay us, but you have money for election. Is election more important than education? You don't have money to pay us, but you have money to do rail line from Kano to Niger Republic. Is a rail line to Niger Republic more important than education? These questions cannot be answered. So we will get to a point where salaries will no longer be possible to pay. Tariff for NEPA has gone up and there is no NEPA. Oil is being mismanaged. There is no fuel. We are queuing up for petrol. It will come to a point when the nation itself will no longer be able to run. Take it from me.
Okay, so can I ask you this question? What will be the effect of the revival that you talked about over the nation? Because you spoke about the issue of the Amolanga revival, sir. I heard you mentioned, you referenced that issue, that case in one of your messages. So, and I know that restoration had followed, national restoration, transformation. At the point it was said that if not for the John Wesley revival, England would have broken up or would have suffered a great setback. So, sir, what will be the impact? Because we have seen what revival in different nations bring about national transformation. So, sir, can you tell us what will be the impact of the revival you spoke about on our nation?
The impact of the revival I'm speaking about on our nation is the revival of the body of Christ, not the nation. The revival of the body of Christ. You don't revive the dead, you resurrect the dead. It's only somebody that is in coma, somebody who is fainting, somebody who has a little life in him, but that life doesn't seem viable. That's the one you do revival for. You don't do revival for the dead. Nigeria is dead. Nigeria does not exist anymore except in paper and geography. The church, the people of God, and the regions where they are going to bolt up, they are going to belt up, and there will be a resurgence of new lives in the Christian regions. The Southwest, for instance, the South, where people like Idahosa
came from.
The Southeast, there's this man there now, this Father Mbaka. So there are rallying points in different regions. You go to different regions, you see rallying points. You go to Akwa Ibom, you find Umapai. So there are these arrowheads for the revival of the Christian people where they are. They are in different places. When revival comes, it will spark among them to transform their region. But how does revival in Nigeria transform Borno State? How practical would that be? When the government is in fact the one sponsoring the banditry. How will revival go to Katsina? How will revival go to Borno, go to Gusau? When government officials themselves are the ones behind the banditry and behind all the evil practices that are going. What is going to happen is that certain of the people who can stay there will move to where their brethren are. That's what Nehemiah said. He said, wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, move there. We are going to rearrange regroup our gatherings, and the people of God will flourish. Do you know that VAT that Lagos generate going to like 14 billion naira in a month? Okay. And Kano generate VAT of 2 billion. They ask Kano to keep their own. And the one Lagos generate, we are to share it.
Come on. It's for everybody.
Yeah, it's for everybody. So what I'm saying is that
even the gold that they mine in Zamfara,
they say it's their
government
own.
CBN asked them to sell it to them. It sparked opera in the nation now.
No, it's
CBN now buying gold from Zamfara. But you mine oil in Niger Delta, and it's for all of us.
It's for our own. The one you are mining in your place is for you. So you see, the injustice is both open and so irrational, dirty, and cannot be sustained. It cannot be sustained.
But sir, let me ask
so
you.
The nation is going to break up. Now, the people, you can imagine if 14 billion is available to develop Lagos.
On a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis. Just from that. We have other things that we used to. Lagos will become like London. But what all the money Lagos make, they take it to Abuja and say the rest of us come and share it. The one Port Harcourt make, they take to Abuja and all of us come and share it. All the indolent people in the north, they are together there to go and share Lagos. Is it not from the south that the money is made from? Now you are breaking the bottles of beer and using his bar to punish them.
Confiscate.
But it's the VAT on these companies in the south. You take the money, you can spend the money, but you destroy the market. There's no way this system can be sustained. That's what I'm telling you. They are using the force of arms and tribalism to sit themselves there. But you know it won't be there forever. It will soon come to pieces. This is my own version.
Okay, sir, let me talk to you from this dimension. I had a revelation about the collapse of the caliphate. Now, when I heard that, it was later when I was working on, there is a book I published some years ago, The Coming Prophetic Collapse of Islam. It was when that book came out I began to hear from different people about different things that God has spoken at various times. One of them, okay, I also heard about Uthman. I don't know if I've heard about Uthman Dafodo dream. The dream of Uthman Dafodo. Wow. Uthman Dafodo had a dream. He's on the net. It was Eda Igu that first told me, I think in Kaduna, Eda Igu that was in Kaduna, first told me about the dream. So I went to research and I found it. Uthman Dafodo had a dream that after 200 years, everything they labored for in Nigeria started crumbling and crumbled completely. Now, there was this story about students in Unilag who were praying some years ago about the issue of Nigeria, and the Lord spoke to them in prophecy, and three things were noted. The first thing then was that then Abiola was doing a lot of things, sinking Bible and the rest of them, all those kinds that were happening in the southwest. That Abiola was going to contest for election, he will win, but he will not rule. Then the second thing the Lord told them is that the cinema houses, beginning from Lagos, were going to be converted to mosque. And the third thing was that a time is going to come when the mosque will be changed to churches, beginning from Lagos. Now, so the first two came to pass, literally. Abiola contested for election, he won, he didn't rule. The cinema houses in Lagos, if you go around Lagos, all of them, today, they are one church or the other. So it comes to the third one, which is about talking about what is going to happen to Islam in this nation. So, sir, I belong to the school based on what God have shared with me personally and various revelations I've heard from others too and prophecies. I believe strongly that the caliphate will definitely crumble in this nation, sir. That is what I believe based on revelations and not just to me alone, but for what I've heard. Have you had any? Do you see that being a possibility, knowing that with God nothing shall be impossible, sir?
The collapse of the caliphate means nothing if the Christian advantage is not taken. The collapse of the caliphate does not mean anything, it's meaningless. If, for instance, the Christian advantages derivable from the collapse is not taken, it doesn't make
any sense. Yeah?
Okay, look at the migration of northerners to the south in the past 3-4 years. You see them inside trailer.
It's called the Al-Hijra. That is Hijra. We call it Hijra in Islam.
They move down to the south.
To the south.
There's nowhere you go in Lagos you don't find them. They are either selling bananas or they are selling carrots. They are doing gate man. They are
selling beans, selling pepper, onions.
They've taken over the sales of foodstuff all over Southwest. Okay. If you go to Odoba, they are the ones selling yam. The women who are selling yam before they run away and handed over to
They
us.
displaced them,
They displaced them.
practically.
Outside people are the ones selling yam. If they came to sell their pepper and sell their onion to us and sell their carrot, fine. But even our own commodity, they are the ones selling our commodity now to us. Where am I going? These hundreds of thousands of this drift, what has the southern churches made out of them? We have not reached them with the gospel. If we can't take gospel to them, now they have come to the gospel areas. How many of them have you seen ending up in the church on Sunday morning? These thousands that flooded our communities, either as beggars or wheelbarrow pushers and so on. We have not touched them with our gospel. So the collapse of the caliphate doesn't mean anything if the Christian advantage derivable from that collapse is not taken. It could collapse and yet, yes, then some other things will come up in its place. But certainly not churches. Because we are not even in that mood in the south.
So, sir, what do we do to take advantage?
What I expect,
okay, sir,
as these Hausa people, these northern people are flooding the south, let the southern people set up Hausa churches.
It's diaspora missions now.
Because these Hausa people who are coming down to the south, they don't have our education and they cannot fit into the existing church structure. Will these fellows be able to go to Winners Chapel in Otta and sit down there? They can't, they will even turn them back from the gate. So what we needed to have done is to foresee the drift, the migration, and set up a spiritual gathering center to be able to collate them, go to the streets and minister to them and preach to them the gospel and direct them to their community churches. We need Hausa pastors. We need Fulani pastors that are supposed to be everywhere. So when these fellows come into their own congregation, they will feel at home. Will these Hausa people who are coming from, will they be able to enter any CAC church and worship there? Will they be able to enter Catholic church and worship there? Does the place look like them? So we needed to have been able to develop something that can appeal to their religiosity. But we don't have it. So the caliphate can collapse and it can still be nothing to us. Because even now, the advantages we have in the northern migration to the south is nothing.
We are not utilizing. So, sir, let me say this. Sir, what and what can be done looking at the church? Now, I'm talking about strategically now. When you look at the level of the worldliness that have crept into the church, the level of occultism, falsehood. So there was a time in Kaduna, somebody came to Kaduna to come and do a program, and one of my friends was later called by the DPO of the police station in Sabo in Kaduna. Then I was still in Kaduna, and Alhaji, the pastor, come and see your people, sir. He came, the people were sitting on the floor. He now said, okay, yeah, they were now, I say what he did. What happened? The guy that came to preach in Kaduna had hired 3 persons from some place and brought them to Kaduna. One acted as a cripple, one as a blind, I think one also as the other deaf or dumb, something like that. So at the cost of the meeting, all of them were supposedly healed. And before you know, about 2.something million was raised. So after the meeting, fight broke out later on, because they say he told them that it was just a small gathering, and they agreed on 10,000 every day. So when they saw the first night that 2 million has been raised, that's okay, let's sit down and change, because it's 3 days program. Let's change contract now, that is 100,000 every day, or no deal. And that was where problems started from, sir. So there are so many, So, sir, what do you think that can be done? Talking about maybe we the remnant, that what can we do, in order to be able to, be able to bring sanity and then help sustain the remnant? Because a lot of people are getting, and my uncle told me that he went to a church around the Sobi, somewhere around Sobi. A friend invited her, so she went. And when she got there, she began seeing women that were walking into the church with trousers, head not covered. He now called a friend. Are you sure that we are here for a vigil or is it a night party? He said, no, it's a vigil. So when they finished that night, he managed to stay and told his friend, never invite me to this kind of program again. So, sir, what do we do strategically?
Well, what we do is very simple. when we began to create alternatives to gospel, that's when these allowances opened up and men were going into it. Let's go back to the gospel of the kingdom. That is, preaching because of kingdom. We are Christians because of kingdom. Not because we want employment, not because we want money, not because we want a wife, not because we want to buy a car, not because we want to get visa, but you are a Christian for the sake of the kingdom. Let's go back there. When we materialized Christianity, monetized faith, that's when these troubles came upon us. In the 70s, it was not so. Crusades were also done in those days, but signs and wonders were not highlighted. Only the gospel. I can never forget some of the crusades I attended in the 70s. Nothing of miracle was highlighted. Today, Ambonke brought all these things with certain others. What you see that we're doing crusades is that come and experience signs and wonders. Come for healing. Come for impartation. Come for breakthrough. You see, these are not supposed to be the reasons you are gathering people.
Wow.
They are not supposed to be the reasons you are gathering people. They may get there and get healed, but that's not the purpose.
That's not the purpose.
They may get there and got breakthrough, but that's not the purpose you gather there. So we have changed the focus, and we need to rechange and reschedule the focus. If we do, then even if we do, I'm not sure it's going to solve the problem, but it will give the remnant a chance to develop an alternative to the present decadence. Because right now there is no alternative that is highlighted. We have given out our television to them. We have given out all our stations to them. All you open television now from one channel to another, and this is
charlatans.
we've surrendered to them. Again, because they have the money to push their claims. And those, on how many stations will you find Biliak? How many stations will you find Kumi? How many stations will you find the Puritans? So we have surrendered, because you even go to these people we are talking about. They may just be struggling with balancing their accounts, let alone being able to compete with Ashimonowo is on every station, you know. Chris Oyakilomi is on every station. So they have money to put themselves as the only one available. And when
as the champions,
as the only one, when there is no other one, we are forced to follow the one there is.
So it still come back to like what I was saying, you know, when in this book, as the first prophetic step, that we should blow the trumpet in Zion, which translates to the fact that we need to now, you know, Isaiah 58 he said, lift up your voice like a trumpet. He said, declare to my people their sins and their transgression. I think the Lord is going to really help us, sir. And I think somehow again, sir, I want to say this. Some of the people who are among the Puritan you have so highlighted, they don't feel the need to take advantage of the media also, even when the money is there. So I don't think that is also a factor, because someone like Kumuyi can be on any show if he wants. Someone like Billy can be, but most times it's like we don't really see the advantage of, you know, taking, you know, this battle to the media, or taking the first stages of the media like others.
Yeah, that's an area we all need to work further on and take advantage of. Not just in slowing down the pace of the growing decadence in the society and in the church, but to even be able to promote our own values and essence. We have to have a selling point where you say, that one is not supposed to be the way it is being done. Okay, we've had you, but show us how it should be done. So it should not be enough for us to criticize the error. We must also be able to put down the correct version. So we have to work harder, just like you have said, in coming on different platforms. And I think people are doing it today. You just told me something you did, and about 100,000 people.
Yes.
So there are these micro efforts going on to promote our values afresh. And those who are looking for it will find it.
You'll find it. Yes. Wow, thank you, sir. So what do you have to say to our viewers on It's Good, because the interview is going to be live on our channel. So what do you have to say to our viewers, the remnant, because the people who have mostly on our channels are the remnant, those who are desperate, who are hungry for the truth. So what do you have to say to them?
Well, the end is very near. The signs are all over. Russia have just said that the nuclear option is on the table if their existential factor is threatened. And the nuclear powers are also saying, well, we will see you drop the first bomb, then the others will follow. So you have some lunatics who are right now ruling the nations, and they are void of ethics. They are not there by God, but to trouble the world and make this world inhabitable, where it will no longer even be possible to live here in peace. We are having our own version of it in the country. Now, does the rich even enjoy his money now? The money of the rich has endangered him. The rich is at the mercy of the poor. The powerful is at the mercy of the weak. The strong is at the mercy of the weaklings. So you come to a point where everything has become meaningless. You stole all the money, but you can't even enjoy the money now. You can't travel on the road. All these Abuja people who hold themselves inside that place, let them come home and travel through their constituency by road. So the rich is coming to a point where even he himself is no more enjoying the money. So what is the value? The powerful, it will be very interesting to see how campaign will run in this country in 2023. Where will you do it? Which road are you going to pass? When all our roads have been taken over by bandits and kidnappers. Maybe they will use helicopters to drop themselves in the metro towns and do campaign and draw. Because that's where they do the voting and allocate the numbers. But like I said, all of that will keep going on till it can no longer continue. It will just collapse. It's like a horse you are riding. You didn't give him water. You didn't give him food. You keep flogging it. It will keep going. It will get to a point because
it's not going.
It's not going again. That's the way the nation will be. So let the remnants brace up. Let them identify themselves. Let them fellowship, break through the barriers and link up with each other across the walls that have been built by our denominational leaders. Break the walls down. Reach out to the other believers in the other camp. Because it's one shepherd, one flock.
One baptism, one Lord, one Savior of all. Well, thank you, sir. Sorry, 2 questions came to me and I want to ask that before I go, sir. You talked about this, we just, you referred to it. So what do you have to say about 2023 election?
In very many places, there will be no election in 2023. In a number of other places where you find elections in 2023, it will not be credible. Maybe it only held in a certain place, then they will go and put figures together from there and announce it, and announce a winner. 2023 is the most doubtful political exercise in the history of Nigeria. You know, the Anambra election almost didn't.
Yes.
you know, it almost didn't. And when it held, what was the percentage of the vote that installed the government?
15%. It was 15% of total registered voters.
So is that one that you are using to rule a state? So what happened to the other 85%? They are not participating in the system of governance. So it's going to continue. What makes it even more doubtful, the signs are all there. Now, the Southeast has been complaining of being marginalized. These present rulers have decided not to listen to them or even talk to them because they have power, they have soldier, they have police. There's not one day that his police station is not attacked in the East. A policeman is killed, a prominent person. If they suspect that you are on the side of this Hausa flag, they kill you. So this thing is going on in the Southeast because the government refused to listen to them or even call them to people and discuss. Politics is about negotiation. Now, brute force is being used to calm them down. Over 5,000 youths are in different prisons in Southeast. And you want to, this is the way you want to rule the people. When it will come to 2023, the Southeast may not participate. They have Shylocks among them who are traitors and so on. There will be an internal purging. They will take on themselves first, and clear them out. Then they take on the system at last. Bomb the election centers, INEC houses, and the rest of it. Because you refuse to listen to them or even call them and negotiate with them. Suppose they were even called and offered a political office. It will calm them down.
Yeah.
It will calm them down. But no, who are they? We'll talk to them in the language that they understand. They are also talking to you in the language that they do understand. Which one day pass that they will not destroy a federal facility establishment in their system. Now, Tinubu is saying that he wants to run in the Southwest, and he's going about it in a way that nothing is slowing him down at all. If the APC throw up Tinubu, which will be good for them, they will have a problem of picking a northern Christian. Who? Because you cannot do Muslim vertically. So who? That the North will rally around behind. When you yourself in the North have decimated the Christians. So
you don't want them to rise.
You don't want them to rise. So who are you going to put there? That's a very serious one. And if you ask him to run, Southeast is not going to be a viable part of 2023 election. I am thinking that this nation may start to fall into pieces from this election in 2023. Meanwhile, don't forget that IPOB remain vibrant where they are. Don't forget that Yoruba Nation agitators are also there. They have not gone.
They've not been silenced.
No.
They are only...
They are still there. Sunday Igboho is not in Nigeria, but he's at the backyard. And there's this Professor Akintoye, who goes about talking about Yoruba Nation as being the best thing. And they have their selling point. If we produced 14 billion in 1 month, and they gave us only 2 out of it and took away the rest 12 to go and share somewhere else, but let our money remain with us. We will develop ourselves. The Igbos are also having their own points to convince their own people. So our Hausa Fulani lords that are ruling us the way they are doing with iron hand, if you plant crops, their cattle will go and eat it. If you talk, they kill you on the farm. So if that is how to rule the rest of us, we will see how far it goes beyond 2023.
Thank you so much, sir. Lastly,
I pity the Fulanis because the system now, these people are innocent, but you have made them enemies of the people. I don't know what is going to happen if after this regime is gone, if these communities will not take vengeance on the Fulani neighbors. And these people are innocent. But the government had run in such a way to make them enemies of people, killers. If they eat your crop and you complain, they kill you. Shouldn't you complain?
It's okay, sir. Sir, lastly,